The news, good evening. 11 of the 13 new ministers swore oaths of allegiance during a ceremony at State House today. The only absentees were Ministers Billy Rangasamy and Sylvestre Radegonde, who are in quarantine as they were out of the country at the time of their appointment.
In a short speech after the swearing-in ceremony of the new ministers, President Ramkalawan told them that it was their duty to ensure their hard work and devotion become an example for our people to emulate. He said they had the task to raise the moral standards in the country, encourage the youth, and to ensure that every member of society feel valued and capable of making a contribution. Mr. Ramkalawan also addressed President Faure, whose responsibility towards the country, he said, does not end with his presidency. President Ramkalawan said that during his interactions with Mr. Faure, they both made it clear that the country was above anything else. Their patriotism and the smooth transfer of power was a shining example for the region, the African continent, and the whole world, he said. And the President also announced that former President Faure still had a role to play as former head of state. He said Mr. Faure may be called upon to represent him for official visits abroad from time to time. And as he stepped outside his former office, Mr. Faure was greeted with military honors as President Ramkalawan accompanied him to his car.
And President Wavell Ramkalawan presided over a brief meeting of the Council of Ministers following the ceremony at State House. He urged ministers to do their utmost to put an end to bureaucracy and remove politics from government ministries.
In the short meeting that we had, we talked about bureaucracy, which is destroying the country, and I've said, go out there, please try and eliminate unnecessary bureaucracy so that our people can get an efficient service, a fast service, and this will remove frustration and people can get on with their projects, with their lifetime dreams and many other things. Secondly, I have told them that I expect hard work and that they should be leading by example. I also addressed specifically the question of politics in the civil service, that I do not want to hear the word an LDS government. This is not an LDS government, this is the government of Seychelles. Let us leave politics out of everything. We are building a nation, and the nation is for the whole of Seychelles. Everybody has a role to play.
You've also sent out a strong message to the drug traffickers.
The war against drugs will be a serious one. I have promised myself that our youth, who today are slaves of heroin, cocaine, and other drugs, will be freed so that they can also go out there, work, because they are part of the manpower that this country.
Affecting many families.
Of course, families are being destroyed. So I'm asking the drug traffickers to come in and be part of this new adventure. Stop trafficking drugs, stop importing drugs into our country.
President Ramkalawan has announced the portfolios of the ministers in his cabinet. The announcement followed the ceremony at State House, where the ministers took their oaths of office this morning.
The designated minister, who will also be the Minister for Fisheries, is Jean-François Ferrari. Nadi Hassan is the Minister for Finance, Economic Planning and Commerce, whilst Sylvestre Radegonde becomes the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Tourism. Peggy Vidot is the Minister for Health, and Patricia Francourt becomes the Minister for Employment and Social Affairs. Errol Fonseca takes over the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and Justin Valentin becomes the Minister for Education. The Minister of Agriculture, Climate Change and Environment will fall under the responsibility of Flavien Joubert. Billy Rangasamy becomes the Minister for Land and Housing. Devi Kavidot becomes the Minister for Investment, Entrepreneurship and Industries. And Marie-Céline Diallo becomes the Minister for Youth, Sports and the Family, whilst Anthony Dejac becomes the Minister for Land and Maritime Transport. Finally, Rosemary Waro is the new Minister for Local Government and Community Development.
The Ministry of Agriculture is negotiating with the Ferox company, which owns the abattoir at Le Rocher, to continue collecting subsidy, which it is paying on behalf of clients to slaughter pigs at its facility. This followed protests made by a dozen farmers at this facility this morning, following a letter where they were informed that they had to pay the full cost of slaughter of their pigs, which included the subsidy fees from the government. The Principal Secretary for Agriculture, Antoine-Marie Moustache, says the government doesn't have any unsettled payments with the abattoir and they are doing their utmost to speed up payments.
It was easier for us to handle it that way simply because it allowed us to address one entity as to opposed to a multiple of entities. It's so much easier administratively, and definitely we hope it was faster to do it that way than to consider a multiple of entities. The management through that letter announced the fact that from now on, that is from the Monday 2nd of October, it would be asking upfront for 500 rupees, which is due for the slaughter of each head of pig, directly from the, in this case, the registered farmer. This has not been very well received.
It is on November the 24th that the Constitutional Court will give its preliminary verdict in the case that VJ Construction has taken to that court. This is a case in which EEEL took VJ to court after the company ended its contract and the court handed down its verdict to have this construction company pay the EEEL 20 million euros.
VJ Construction lost its case in the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal also upheld its verdict. The lawyer for VJ Construction, Bernard Georges, has taken this case before the Constitutional Court because he says that this case was not heard in a fair manner by the Court of Appeal, although the court upheld the decision of the Supreme Court. Also in court today, the two accused in possession of weapons and threat of violence by using weapons have been formally charged. The prosecution asked that the first accused remain in custody because of the gravity of the offense and the fact that he lied that he had thrown away a weapon. The prosecution is under the impression that he would leave the country in the event that he is released on bail. On November 16th, the first accused will appear again when Judge Daudet will give his decision whether he will remain in custody or released on bail. He is detained for another 14 days until his case is heard on 16th November. As for the second accused, she is at large under certain conditions and both accused will appear before the court on November 30th.
And 2 new cases of COVID-19 have been recorded by the Ministry of Health, bringing the total number of cases recorded in Seychelles so far to 157. The couple, who arrived in the country last Wednesday, the 28th of October, tested positive following the routine 5th-day PCR screening. They arrived from the UK and are residing at an island resort. They are asymptomatic and remain in isolation at the resort. And with this, we end this news summary. Have a pleasant evening.